In this episode of the Boarding School Podcast, we speak with Tom Odell about how an educational consultant can guide an international family through the boarding school admission process. Welcome to Admissions Quest Boarding School Podcast. I'm Peter Barron from AQ, and today we're going to explore how an educational consultant can help an international family find the right boarding school for their child. To help us answer this, I'm joined by Tom Odell of Tom Odell Educational Consulting and Admissions Quest Educational Consulting. Tom's noted career in boarding schools began as a teacher and administrator at the Glenholm School. He served as director of admission at both the Marvelwood School and the Hillside School, as well as head of school at the Greenwood School. Today, in addition to his private practice, he's a member of the admissions staff at the Foreman School in Connecticut. Tom has guided a number of international families, helping them to find the right boarding school, and that makes him an ideal person to talk about how an educational consultant can assist in the school search. Tom, welcome to the Boarding School Podcast.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Tom, before we explore how an educational consultant can help an international family find the right boarding school, can you talk a bit about the kinds of lessons and experiences an American boarding school provides for an international student?
Yes, certainly. The first thing that an international family needs to consider is that in America there are a variety of kinds of boarding schools, and that before making a decision about a school, international families need to understand what kind of school their son or daughter would be best served at, and also they need to become familiar with the different kinds of programs offered at American boarding schools. There are some international families international students who come to America with very little English, and those kids need to go into an American boarding school that has a intensive English as a second language program. Not all schools offer that, so a family needs to understand that. An international family also needs to know the different programs offered at schools in terms of art and music and theater, sports, and then have their child identify the kind of school or the kind of programs they want to go into. Also, American boarding schools are located all around the United States. So an international family would want to know, well, would I be more comfortable on the West Coast, on the East Coast, in the Midwest, in a warm climate, a cold climate? Also, some American boarding schools are highly academic and only serve kids who are high achievers, and also transition kids into high-level elite Ivy League colleges. So the international family needs to know what kind of student their son or daughter is, and then match them to the right boarding school. There are some American boarding schools that also serve kids who are average, or kids who even have some mild learning disabilities. So it's really important for an international family to know there's a range of kinds of boarding schools in the United States, and a consultant will help them identify those that would be most appropriate for their son or daughter.
So it sounds like there are a number of variables that they need to be aware of. How does the consultant then look at all those variables, look at the map of boarding schools and make a decision, or at least guide them to the point where they can find the right school?
Peter, I think guide is the right word that you've used, because a consultant would need to get information from the family in terms of academic records, transcripts, results of SLEP or TOEFL tests, a conversation. The consultant will want to have a conversation with the student to get a sense of his or her English proficiency, discussions with the family, if possible, discussions with tutors or teachers at the home school. All that information needs to be gathered by the consultant, and then what we can do is use that information to identify specific kinds of schools that the student would be most comfortable at, and work with the family on identifying 5 or 6 that we think would be appropriate, and then guide them through the process of applying, visiting, interviewing, and then ultimately, once decisions have been made by the school, help the family decide on choosing one of the schools and which one would be best for that student.
You mentioned testing before. Can you talk a little bit about the TOEFL and the SLEP?
All American boarding schools are going to want to see one of those tests as part of the admissions process. Those tests help a school determine the level the student has in terms of using English, writing and reading English. as I said earlier, some schools don't take kids whose English skills are very, very weak. The TOEFL test and the SLEP test will help the schools determine what level of English those students have. So it's very important. In fact, I don't know of a school, American boarding school, that doesn't require one of those tests for admission.
And once the student's gone through the process and they've been accepted, is there follow-up that happens with the consultant? I mean, are they in touch with the student after they've matriculated?
Yeah, I mean, consultants don't just make recommendations and let the family go off on their own. Consultants stay involved during the application process. Once decisions have been made about, the school, once the schools have made their decisions about acceptance or deny, the consultant will again talk with the family and try to guide them to the right school where the student would be most successful. And consultants even stay involved after the student has made a decision, after the family has made a decision, and will follow up, stay involved for a certain period of time after the enrollment has taken place. And that's really an important part of what consultants do. It's guiding the family through the process, staying involved once the student has been placed, assisting with if there's any issues or any problems that occur. The consultant is there to help as well.
So it's not unusual for the consultant to have conversations with the student's teachers, advisors, dorm parents, whatever the case may be.
Absolutely. In fact, I certainly do that, and most of my colleagues do that as well. So let's say a student is having some difficulty in some of the reading and writing courses at the school. The consultant can get on the phone with the ESL teacher or the English teacher or one of the deans to try to figure out what might be a better approach or ways to assist the student in helping with some of the issues.
Is there anything else that a family should be thinking about as they embark on this process and are considering working with a consultant?
Consultants will help with a couple of aspects. They will help students prepare for the interview. I mean, the interview is key. The interview is absolutely key. Most schools require a face-to-face interview or a phone interview and put a lot of weight on how the student does in that interview. So the consultant's going to help with that process, maybe do a mock interview with the student on the phone to better prepare that student for what's to come in the interview. The consultant will help the family set up the visit. Since the families don't know the geography of the United States, the consultant will help arrange and schedule the appointments. The consultant will communicate with the admissions offices at the various schools to make sure applications are sent in correctly, make sure the recommendations have been sent in, make sure that the TOEFL tests have been sent in, and then also arrange for the interview times. Preferably, schools would like to see the families visit the United States and to see the campuses, and I certainly would encourage families to do that, but that's not always possible. But most schools would like to see the student visit, and I would imagine most families would like to see the schools as well before making their decisions.
Right. Although it isn't unusual for admission directors to travel abroad and interview off-site. Is that right, Tom?
Right. That's an excellent point. Yes, many of the admissions offices at the schools do travel internationally and will arrange to meet with families in their home country. That's not always possible, but certainly it's preferable if the admissions person is going to be in that country.
But you're right. Ideally, the student and the student's family will have an opportunity to step foot on campus and really get a feel for what the culture is all about and how they might fit in.
Correct. And also, another important point, Peter, is that if a student and a family are going to visit a school, they really should visit the school when the kids are there. Sometimes that's not possible. They can only come during a vacation or during the summer. But getting a sense of a school when the kids are there, that's key, in my opinion, because the family and the visiting student get a chance to see the other kids. Schools are a lot more than facilities. Really, the essence of a school are the kids and the interaction between the students and the teachers. And that you can only see if you visit the school when it's in operation.
Yeah, that's a really important point, something that tends to get missed in the process, I imagine. Well, great. Well, Tom, thank you so much for taking a few minutes today to talk to us about how an educational consultant can benefit a family overseas. We appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure. Thank you, Peter.